Good evening. You're watching Arirang News at 8. It's Monday, December 16th here in Korea. Live from Seoul, I am Yoo Ji-han. We begin this evening in North Korea, where the communist regime is gearing up to mark the second anniversary of the death of former North Korean leader Kim Jong-il on Tuesday. On the eve of the occasion, the nation's military held a mass gathering to pledge allegiance to his son and current leader Kim Jong-un. Our Han Da-eun has the latest.
Is Kim Jong-un trying to quell instability in the north by tightening his grip on the state's military? According to the state-run Korean Central News Agency Monday, the North Korean military swore loyalty to quote-unquote their one and only supreme commander Kim Jong-un and vowed to safeguard him in accordance with Kim Jong-il's last words. The gathering took place at the Kumsusan Memorial Palace in Pyongyang, where bodies of the state founder Kim Il-sung and his son Kim Jong-il lie in state. Military Politburo Chief Choi Ryong-hae and Armed Forces Minister Chang Jong-nam were among those in attendance. Meanwhile, Kim Jong-un also paid his respects to the late chairman of the Workers' Party Control Commission, Kim Guk-tae, who was known for his loyalty to the regime. The KCNA, reporting on Kim Jong-un's visit, stressed the importance of doing the same. A large-scale national ceremony to commemorate the second anniversary of Kim Jong-il's death is expected to take place on Tuesday. Much attention is being drawn to how the front seats will be arranged, as it'll be indicative of the regime's new power structure. Han Da-eun, Arirang News.
While Tuesday is the second anniversary of Kim Jong-il's death, it also marks the first day of Kim Jong-un's third year as North Korean leader. With things looking shaky at the start to his third year in power, where is North Korea headed? Our Unification Ministry correspondent Hwang Sung-hee has the first of a three-part series on the changing dynamics in the North.
With the death of late North Korean ruler Kim Jong-il on December 17, 2011, his 27-year-old successor, Kim Jong-un, found his hands full. A nuclear arsenal, over 1 million troops, more than $6 trillion worth of natural resources, together with a heavily oppressed and impoverished population of 24 million, were all under the young Kim's reign. Making friends with an American NBA star and courting his fashionable wife in public, the young leader certainly distinguished himself from his father.
His father was more distant. He seems to be more like a natural politician who actually gets on well with people and mixes with them. He's photogenic like his grandfather was. And so that's what he's been deploying in his leadership style.
But the shuddering side of Kim Jong-un was revealed just days before his 2-year anniversary in power, with the young leader removing his own family member from North Korea's ruling elite. Experts say the execution of his uncle Chang Sung-taek, who was known as the second most powerful man in North Korea, signals that the young leader has entered a new phase in his leadership.
A second-in-command cannot exist in North Korea. Only one leader exists. In that sense, Kim Jong-un seems to have removed Chang Sung-taek, the second man in power, to tighten his grip on power. As shocking as the news of Chang's removal was to the outside world, experts say it was a calculated move and a much expected one. One by one, Kim had been dismissing senior officials from his father's generation and replacing them with his own inner circle. But Chang's execution may also destabilize the North Korean regime.
It shows how corrupted the North Korean leadership is and that there are many internal conflicts due to the forces who oppose change. In the long term, this may provoke the North Korean citizens.
In the foreseeable future, however, the young leader will continue portraying himself as a relaxed and open ruler, welcoming retired American basketball player Dennis Rodman for the third time this year, and allowing an international delegation to tour the Kaesong Industrial Complex this week. Hwang Sung-hee, Arirang News.
And back here in the South, amid the turmoil in North Korea, President Park Geun-hye convened a security meeting with related ministers and senior secretaries Monday to discuss the current situation in the North and how the South Korean government should respond to any contingencies. Our presidential office correspondent, Oh Jin-joo, reports.
The recent execution of Chang Song-taek was once regarded as the second most powerful figure in North Korea, startled the world, not to mention South Korea. As a follow-up to an emergency security policy meeting on Friday, the day Chang's execution was announced by Pyongyang state-run media, President Park held a meeting Monday afternoon with her foreign affairs and security-related ministers and senior secretaries. Senior Presidential Secretary for Public Relations Lee Jung-hyun told reporters that President Park ordered the establishment of a National Security Council Secretariat that would support the management of the NSC and the function of the National Security Office to better respond to the rapidly changing situation on the Korean Peninsula and in neighboring nations. The NSC Secretariat played a role as the control tower of security-related issues during the Roh Moo-hyun administration, but was abolished during the Lee Myung-bak administration. She also asked her top government officials to fully prepare for any contingencies and provide assurance to the public so they can continue on with their daily routines without worry. President Park urged related ministries to keep a close eye on the situation unfolding in the north and maintain a strong security posture. In particular, she urged the military to closely cooperate with U.S. forces and share information with neighboring nations and the international community. Earlier in the day, during a meeting with her senior secretaries, President Park warned of a possible provocation.
최근 북한에서 전개되고 있는 일련의 사태를 보면 향후 북한 정세가 어떤 방향으로 진행이 될지 불투명하고 무모한 도발과 같은 돌발 사태도 배제할 수가 없는 상황입니다.
The presidential office of Choa and other public offices are currently on emergency standby, with President Park calling for nationwide efforts to prepare for any possibilities, considering what she called the gravity and unpredictability of the status quo. Oh Jin-ju, Arirang News.
For an expert's take on the latest developments out of North Korea, we go one-on-one with Professor Kim Dong-yeol of Korea National Diplomatic Academy. Now, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be here.
As we have seen from the previous reports, North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has increased his public outings after Chang Song-taek's death. He's smiling radiantly in front of the public. What do you make of his behavior?
Well, I would say it's not surprising at all, or it is truly proving that everything is okay in North Korea. At the same time, it identifies the nature of all this execution and these related things. It is some sort of domestic power political struggle, and then has a victory in this struggle against his own uncle. So at this moment, if he behaves like a calm or just like behaving, nothing has happened at all, it will be much better for his political goal and his political future as well. So it is exactly to the goal of his whole action against his own uncle, I would say.
So you're saying he's acting as if business as usual.
Exactly.
I see. So with his uncle Chang Song-taek out of the picture, Kim Jong-un is making strides in reshuffling his power structure. What do you make of his choice of people? I mean, it's all speculation for now. And is there anyone in particular that we should look out for?
You're right. It is too premature to tell anybody that might come up in a power. In the central stage of power. So in North Korea, I would say we have to wait until tomorrow and then see who appears and which line or which rank, and then we see that somebody is coming up in political power, somebody is declining or disappeared from this the anniversary. But one thing though is at this moment is that what's actually what the North Korea tried to show to the people at this moment, it is not going to be true, because at this moment, mostly they try to say that these are the figures who might appear in the funeral, or the anniversary, but it's going to be some sort of fake, I would say. So definitely we have to see and then wait and see until tomorrow.
Why would they fake it?
As I said, it is like just for domestic audience, so that everything is going as usual. And then even though one of the greatest men in North Korean politics was executed, but he tried to show the North Korean people says that it was just a minor thing, even though it is very important for political power at the center of Pyongyang, but it's nothing for the future or fortune of the entire nation. So he is acting at this moment, even though something serious is going on in power struggle.
I see.
Yeah.
I mean, a North Korean official also supported that, saying that the execution of Chang will bring about no change to North Korea's economic policy. Do you believe this is true?
Most probably, well, North Korea at this moment desperately need hard currency. The economy is pretty shaky. They need resources to support not just the people, but for the government itself. They need money to, provide those materials for even just like a basic administration in the government. So what else they could do? I mean, they have to open the economy either for tourism or for natural resources or anything. So they have to open and keep this, the open economy anyway, or even open further. But as we all agree that Chang Sung-taek's priority in politics was something more like on economy, not in security. So probably the purge of Chang Sung-taek would slow down a little bit temporarily, but this economy, the open economy would resume easily, and then, I would say it's going to even further towards more opening of North Korean economy. So I would say nothing serious will change in the economy.
Then how about the regime's policies towards inter-Korean relations?
Well, as I said, again, for the economic sense, I mean, North Korea tried to sustain, this economic relationship, good relationship with South Korea. I have this Kaesong area in mind. And then I would say even they want to strengthen their relationship with South Korea because, South Korea may remain as the only source for, the materials that they need for their governance or government. While China is a little bit, at this moment, a little bit hesitant to step up their economic trade with North Korea after Chang's purge, one of the closest person to China's politics. So if China is a little bit like at this moment slowing down, and then probably South Korea will remain the only source for their necessities. So probably they're going to sustain, or in a better case, probably they're going to strengthen the economic relationship with South Korea. That's my prediction.
I see. Well, tomorrow's a big day for North Korea.
Definitely, yes.
Will we see more propaganda being raised in the States?
I said that the economic relationship with South Korea would be sustained or even strengthened, but at the same time, I would say North Korea would raise the level of political propaganda to South Korea. Sometimes a verbal attack to South Korea, blaming South Korea more for imperial policies in cooperation with the United States, something like the very usual things we have seen so far. The reason is this, even though they need money, but still they don't want South Korea to provoke them by saying something like about their first family. So they said that it is truly a supreme reverence in North Korea, and it is related to the political legitimacy of North Korea as well. So if South Korea try to say against the family, say something like bad things or gossip kind of things about North Korean first family, it truly hurt the North Korean regime. So on the one hand, they try to sustain the economic relationship, but on the other, probably they're going to raise the level of the political propaganda to South Korea.
See, so I guess we'll have to keep a close eye on what's happening tomorrow.
Well, definitely, yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll see what's going to happen.
Thank you very much, Professor Kim, for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Very visit.
Touch base with journalists, experts, and analysts who are taking the pulse of Asia's heartbeat.
South Korea's defense minister.
In a lively half hour, join Arirang's Yoo Ji-hye for the day's top stories, current affairs, business, technology trends, plus global weather forecasts and more. Arirang News. Every weeknight, live on Arirang TV.
Days after the nation's spy agency announced self-reform measures, a public hearing was held by a special parliamentary committee over ways to overhaul the organization, which has been under fire throughout the year for alleged political interference. Our Park Ji-won reports.
The Special Parliamentary Committee to Reform the National Intelligence Agency held public hearings on Monday. A group of experts was invited to share their views on how to make the agency more politically neutral and strengthen its original mission of information gathering. The experts, however, showed opposing perspectives about the direction and scope of reforms. Experts invited by the ruling Saenuri Party said reducing the agency's budget and investigative functions domestically would have a negative impact on security, considering North Korea still sends their spies to South Korea and the National Intelligence Agency often arrests them.
Experts recommended by the main opposition Democratic Party said the NIS should strengthen its information gathering activities on North Korea and other countries, and that its investigative rights at home be limited to ensure it doesn't interfere in domestic political affairs. The two parties also came up with differing opinions about recent developments in North Korea and the role of the state spy agency. The ruling Saenuri party said since the agency did a good job collecting information on the purge of Chang Song-taek, a cautious approach should be taken regarding the scope of reforms.
Now is when the parliament needs bipartisan cooperation. At this important time, both diplomatically and security-wise, we should avoid internal conflicts.
The opposition Democratic Party said reforms should center on improving the agency's information gathering capacity, mainly with regard to North Korea.
The reform ideas by the Democratic Party are intended to strengthen the NIS, not to weaken it.
The National Intelligence Service is embroiled in allegations that it meddled in last year's presidential election. The Special Parliamentary Committee's public hearings will continue through Tuesday. From Wednesday, the committee will begin deliberating on the revision of the law that defines the role of the National Intelligence Service. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
And over now to a railway strike in the nation that entered its second week on this Monday. While the walkout had mostly only affected freight train operations during week one, it's now starting to impact passenger train services, leaving some commuters in the lurch. Our Shin Se-min reports.
The railway strike that started 1 week ago has now begun to have a direct effect on the commuters in the capital city. The Korea Railroad Corporation, or Korail, reduced operation of Subway Line 3 in Seoul by 15% on Monday. The line is operated by the both Korail and Seoul Metro, which also run the first and fourth lines, signaling the possibility of further scale-downs in operations. The unions representing Seoul Metro and the Korean railway workers have already notified their employers that they plan to go on a strike starting Wednesday. Along with the metro services, Korail said it'll also reduce the number of KTX passenger trains by 12% starting Tuesday, suggesting more inconveniences for commuters in the coming days. The railway strike entered its second week on Monday, with police announcing that they would seek arrest warrant for 10 union members for failing to appear for questioning. And they will be taken into custody if and when the warrants are issued. An 84-year-old woman was killed in southern Seoul on Sunday evening after her leg got stuck between the train doors while the subway was still moving. A substitute engineer was running the subway at the time of the accident, one of hundreds that are filling in for the nearly 8,000 workers currently on strike. They're demanding that the government reverse its plan to set up a new rail operator, which they claim is a first step towards privatization. The government and police call it an illegal strike and that they will follow the letter of the law in dealing with it. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
And this just in, Seoul Western District Court had issued arrest warrants of 10 Korail union members who were on strike, and we'll bring you more details on the strike as soon as we have them on our primetime news at 10 p.m. Korea time. And meanwhile, GM Korea, the local unit of U.S. automaker General Motors, is recalling more than 1,800 of its automobiles over faulty steering caused by a nut that may come loose. The Korea's Transportation Ministry says the recall affects Damas minivans and Labo mini trucks that were manufactured between May and June of this year. Owners will be able to get repairs free of charge at GM Korea's service centers. The company had announced last week that it would stop producing the Damas and Labo models starting next year after failing to come to an agreement over safety regulations with the Transportation Ministry in November. This past summer, the Korean stock market emerged as one of Asia's most popular safe havens amid fears over the outlook for U.S. monetary policy, which sparked a major sell-off. But that upward trend has reversed in recent weeks. Our Yoo Yan has the details.
It was less than 2 months ago when Korean stocks enjoyed their longest ever foreign buying spree and hit an 18-month high. That's when heightening fears over the timing of U.S. stimulus tapering sent foreign investors seeking a safe haven to Korea, as they considered it a more solid economy compared to other developing nations. Korea recorded a trade surplus for the 19th straight month in October. But it turns out that was no more than a blip on the radar. In recent weeks, the Kospi had dropped by nearly 5%, to a point even lower than the beginning of the year. On top of fears that the United States will most likely start tapering on the near future, experts say Korean companies' disappointing report cards in the third quarter also prompted the foreign sell-off. Of the 254 local companies that announced their earnings in the third quarter, only a third of them posted higher than expected profits. This compares to around two-thirds, both in the United States and Japan.
Ever since the global financial crisis, the United States carried out strong restructuring measures, and Japan lashed out a new set of stimulus policies, so-called Abenomics. Korea instead continued to create a bubble, raising companies' credit rating as they benefited from the strengthening yen.
The lack of strong restructuring measures, he says, has taken a toll on local companies. Pundits are calling for a new and stronger growth engine and appropriate policies to support them so that Korea's stock market can follow a solid upward trajectory. Yuri-an, Arirang News.
And some health-related news, a slew of recent studies are starting to promote alcohol as healthy. That is, drinking a few glasses of wine per week. But recent findings by a local research team shows that even consuming alcohol in small amounts can dramatically impact how your brain controls the way you think and feel. Paul Lee has this report.
Drinking responsibly with friends and colleagues can be an enjoyable experience. Unfortunately, having one too many drinks can lead to actions or words you may soon regret. The loss in control is already a well-known reaction anecdotally. However, scientists are still searching for the exact neurological reason as to why alcohol affects us in this way. A research team here in Korea sought to answer this question by monitoring the brain waves of two subject groups, those who drank orange juice and those who drank juice containing alcohol. Measurements were recorded using an electroencephalogram to analyze brain activity. A side-by-side comparison shows that those who consumed alcohol had reduced activity in their cerebral cortex, which is made up of neural tissue that connects the right and left sides of the brain. The study's lead author, Dr. Lee Jae-won from Gangnan Ulji Hospital, says that this disconnect in brain function shows a possible link to decreased rational decision-making.
If you drink alcohol, there is decreased communication between regions in the brain. I use the EEG method to determine the degree of communication between brain regions. This technology allows us to measure brain activity differently than other conventional methods.
The study was published last month in the scientific journal Alcoholism, Clinical and Experimental Research. The results show promise in establishing a new diagnostic tool in identifying various addictions and mental disorders. Paul Yi, Arirang News.
Arirang TV, Korea's only global television network, will be available on DirecTV, the largest satellite provider in the United States, beginning in the first half of next year. The Korea Communications Commission said Monday that the new deal will help Hallyu, or the Korean wave, reach mainstream audiences in the U.S. Arirang TV becomes the second foreign broadcaster to run programming on DirecTV, following China's CCTV. Arirang launched its first digital terrestrial TV in the United States in 2011 and reached 100 million households worldwide in 2012. Let's go over to our Kim Bo-kyung at the Weather Center for the latest forecast. Now, Bo-kyung, I understand that heavy snowfall is forecast in some regions.
That's right, Chihe. A winter weather advisory has been issued in Gangwon-do province as well as the mountains in Jeju and Gyeongsang-do province. First, taking a look at the current conditions. Well, as you can see, it is cloudy across the map and especially in the southern regions due to a low pressure trough. Well, our viewers nearby the mountains of Gangwon should be prepared as over 25 centimeters of heavy snow may fall, while about 10 centimeters of snow are forecast in the mountains of Jeju. Other than that, it looks like we're going to get back to our seasonal averages tomorrow before things get colder starting Thursday. Taking a look at tomorrow's readings, Seoul starts off the day at -4 degrees with a high of 5. Meanwhile, Daegu and Busan remain at 6 and 9 degrees respectively. Moving on to other regions, Jeju reaches 6 degrees in the morning before hitting 8 in the afternoon. Meanwhile, Dokdo and Mount Kumgang peak at 6 and -4 degrees respectively. Well, that's all I have for you this hour, and back to you, Chihe.
Thanks, Po-kyung. And that's our broadcast on this Monday night. I'm Yoo Ji-hye in Seoul. I'll be back with more news updates on our primetime news at 10 p.m. Korea time. See you then.